Hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome to Creating the Conversation podcast. This is our 10th episode, and I hope you guys have been listening, have been viewing, and getting into some of the conversation and discussions that we've been having. Guys, we are really honored to have you, and hopefully those of you who will listen afterwards as well, you can give us your views, your ideas, your reflection, and your thoughts. Today we have hopefully it will be a good discussion, a good conversation, a conversation about some very, very important political issues, and the individuals that were the guests that we have today, which I'm going to introduce in a few seconds. Before I do that, I'm going to go to my mate, Ivan Humble, if he has any thoughts and reflection of how he's feeling today. How are you, mate? You okay? Ivan, what's happening, mate?
I'm good, thank you, mate. All good.
Good stuff. You had a good week? You had a good week? Family all right?
Yes,
everybody's
yeah, family good. Everything's all good.
Are you still you're still tier 1, aren't you?
Yeah, still tier 1.
Come on.
Birmingham,
That's not fair, bro.
Birmingham and everything's going tier 3. I know.
Yeah, look at you. Look at that smug.
3.
Look at that smug smile there, thinking that you're on tier 1, mate. You're on tier 3. It's just wrong.
It'll be our turn soon. It'll be our turn soon. Do you know what I mean? That's the way it's going.
I know what you're saying. But politically, that's what they're talking about at the moment, isn't it? That they want to, because there's been a number of increase of cases in London, so they want to go down tier 3. So they're dabbling with that at the moment. You know what I'm saying? Just playing with that at the moment. So hope it is going to happen. It's going to happen. There's no doubt about that. But everybody else is okay. Family's good. At your end, no issues. Good man. Ivan, today we all good. God bless you, mate. God bless you. Today, I think, is a very, very crucial, important subject matter that we're going to talk about, create some conversation around this. We want to talk about, of course, the USA. Of course, we have the elections coming up. Joe Biden with Donald Trump. Oh, my God. All right. So this is a bit of a big one for us, really. And a lot of people might say, 1 minute, why are you talking about this? Why you become all this political and whatever? But the important thing is, the truth of the matter is, what happens in America at a political level impacts Europe, impacts us in Britain, impacts many, many other countries, around the world. This is a reality of the politics of our world. So it is important, whatever happens there, we are aware of, we know what's going on. And I think, Ivan, God bless you for this. The man that we have today, all right, there's going to be, I'm going to say, mate, it's going to be a tsunami, bro. It's going to be a tsunami. I'm telling you. You know what I mean? I can't believe it. You got this guy through the door, bro. What's going on? Wow. This gentleman that we have today is an interesting character. God bless him. As an individual who, let me put it like this. When I introduce him and when he comes up, all right, it's going to hopefully fascinate a lot of people who are going to join us. Because this gentleman, no doubt, he is a public speaker. He, an extremist expert, human rights activist, all right? But guess what? For 20-odd years, 27, 28 years approximately, this gentleman was the leader of the largest neo-Nazi organization in the United States, the National Socialist Movement. What the hell are you talking about, mate? He was the leader of this. And we're talking about an individual, a person who has his history. And when he comes on, he's going to give his introduction. He's going to tell a little bit about what happened, what was the journey, how he came out of that situation, what changed him, why he chose to move away and be the person that he is today. And the gentleman that I'm talking about, guys, is none other than, the name is Mr. Jeff Schoep. I especially asked him, tell me how to pronounce your name. I asked him that. I really did. I go, look, man, sorry, I hope I don't get it wrong. Hopefully I got it right. So guess what, Ivan? I'm going to bring up my mate, an individual that we've had a conversation with, a discussion with, your mate, someone that you know for a very long time, all right? And you know his journey. But now it's important that we get to know what USA is going through, the inner view, insider's view of what's really happening around hate, around division, and Trump. So I invite Mr. Jeff Schoep. Welcome, mate. Big up.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
No worries, man. Welcome from Detroit. I know. I think you're about 4 or 5 hours away from us, are you?
Yeah.
It's a nice day today. It looks really bright behind you. That's not the real Detroit, is it? It's something else now.
No, that's Detroit. It's Detroit.
It looks beautiful. Oh my God. Do you know what I mean?
The wonders of the green screen, man.
Oh, that's what it is. All right, I got it. Jeff, I hope you're all right. Everything's okay with you. I hope your family's all right. I hope, especially your neighbors and etc., are doing okay under the whole, of course, with the whole COVID-19 pandemic going on. What we hear here in Britain is mainly like, oh my God, America's gone crazy. They're not keeping, they're not looking after the vulnerable people in America. Yeah, mate, tell me what's going on. Come on.
I thought it was just crazy in England. That's what they tell us over
come
here.
On.
No, go ahead. No,
you're right, go for it.
Yeah, COVID's hit the country. I mean, it hit the world pretty hard. It's changed our lives, I think, and hopefully they come up with a vaccine or something to fix this, because it's definitely, it's a different world out there, and you have people, you're wearing masks, and I mean, that's been a big issue here in the state of Michigan, where I'm at, in Detroit. You've had protests, anti-maskers, maskers, and there was even a plot just recently to alleged plot, I should say, because the guys haven't been convicted yet, but there's been some arrests here in the state of militia members that were allegedly plotting to kidnap the governor of the state of Michigan. So there's some craziness going on over here for sure. Yeah.
See, that's the America. Really, that's the America we know. You understand? That's the America we tend to listen about and hear about. These guys don't care. They take out their guns. They're just gonna go after people and go crazy. And we're like, 1 minute, mate. That can't be right. I tell you something, Jeff. In my experience, I've had an opportunity to travel. I used to work for a particular organization, a charity NGO. Organization, and I got an opportunity to go to Somalia, and when I was in Somalia, we went to Djibouti. We landed in Djibouti, all right, the airport before getting into Somalia. Now the thing was that the people that we got there, and guess who was there? A delegation from America. So they had the whole suited booted soldiers. They were soldiers. Now, I'm a person who's a bit nosy sometimes. So I'm like, I literally walked up to him and I said to him, "Hey guys, what is the army doing here? What are you guys doing here?" Right? I'm sure there's no political issues going on over here. As an English person asking this particular question, they go, "No, all of us are doctors." I was like, "What?" And I go, "Come again? What did you say?" They go, "We're all doctors." There's been a number of breakouts of particular type of illnesses in these areas. So within the American army, we are part of the American army structure. So because we have bases, all right, we have all of this around the world. We use that to go and give support to people. And I'm like, really? Now that triggered my interest in them. So I started to do some research, and guess what? I found that there's a whole different side to what America does. There's a crazy side. There's a bit of loony side as well, mate. There is. But there's this side to them as well. I go, 1 minute. What the hell's going on here? There's 2-3 faces here. But that really shocked me. But that put things in perspective for me as an individual. I go, 1 minute. Before we start screaming and shouting, you this, you this, you this, not everybody's the same. Not all the fingers on our hand are the same size, are they? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So that really shocked me in my experience in meeting Americans, especially even though they were suited as soldiers, but they went there to support and help and to ease a really difficult situation. And I pray that whatever's going on in America, we get crazies, but I think, mate, Jeff, you get it, you there, you see it all the time. And I pray, and because of the pandemic, there's some unity, there's real humanity and understanding and neighborliness that comes up, mate. All right.
Yep.
Nice of you to be here with us. I'm going to give it direct to Ivan. Go for it, Ivan. Hit me with it, bro.
Right, Jeff. Just firstly, do you just want to just say a little bit about yourself and just how you are now, kind of thing, just so the listeners can understand what we know?
Right. Where to begin? So I spent 27 years involved in the extreme far right. 25 of those years I was running the National Socialist Movement. I was the national leader for the United States. For those that don't know the National Socialist Movement, or basically that's America's Nazi Party. And that was a long run with the organization, and I just couldn't be part of it anymore. One of the things that that really is interesting is when you start opening up and listening to other people and having dialogue, having conversations and things like that. A lot of people will ask, like, what is it that got you out? What was that one thing? And there's not one thing. There's many things, and it took time. What I didn't even realize at the time was, so I've been out since March of 2019. Back in about 2016 is when I started the de-radicalization process. I was still in the organization. I wouldn't have realized it at the time, but that's when I started being more open to different individuals. I met some incredible people, like my friend Daryl Davis. A year later, I met another friend, Dia Khan. Just a little bit of background on them. Daryl Davis is a Black musician. He played with Chuck Berry, Little Richard. He lights the keys on fire. He's phenomenal. Another thing he does, and he works with us at Beyond Barriers, which is what I do now. It's a nonprofit. And meeting Daryl and hearing some of Daryl's stories about his life, things that he went through, that to me, that planted some seeds back in 2016. And by the time I met Dia Khan in 2017, similar seeds were planted by Dia. Dia is a Muslim filmmaker from England, actually, originally from Pakistan or Afghanistan, over in that part of the world. But she's
a combination of both. She's Pakistani and Afghani.
There you go. Right. That's right. I always get those, get that mixed up, but that's exactly it. So meeting Dia affected me tremendously, because I had, during the course of filming for the movie White Right Meeting the Enemy, I got to know Dia pretty well. We had spent quite a bit of time together filming, and she traveled with us, and she struck me as just a really interesting person. Originally, the story is when she had contacted me, something was said, and I told her, I said, you have 1 hour of my time, is what I said. There was some
regimented. This is the time, not the time.
Exactly. Yeah, I was very probably kind of rude to her, actually. I was like, you have 1 hour of my time. And it turned out that I was the first white nationalist that she had actually met to sit down and talk with. So she's nervous. I was agitated for whatever reason. I don't remember what it was, but I put a time limit on it. And we're sitting down and talking the very first time, and hours passed. And she said, she looks at her watch and she says, what happened to 1 hour of your time? And I couldn't really process it at the time, but I just remember saying something like, the questions you're asking, some of the things you're saying, they're interesting, and what she piqued my curiosity was really because I'd done all those years, I'd done hundreds, maybe thousands. I don't know. I have no idea the number. Lots and lots of interviews. And that's just what I did, as part of the National Socialist Movement. So it wasn't that, but it was that she was asking questions that were so much different, that were human interest questions that made you think and things like that. So I thought, this is interesting. I'll just keep going with this. And then that ended up developing into a friendship. And towards the end of the filming, she was sitting across from me, and she was talking about how the movement damaged her as a person, how I'm talking about the white nationalist movement, how it installed fear in her, how it made her feel like less than a person. And I don't remember the exact quote, but it was a painful memory. And she's sitting across from me, and I can literally like feel and see her pain, see that how this has damaged her as a person. And she's this incredible person, as you guys know. And I'm feeling it and it was like a horse or something kicked me in the chest. It was just like, and I think the cameraman notice that because he zoomed in on my face in the film, and there's a little clip of that part, I believe, in the film. But she really got to me there, and that goes back to the concept of what we do now with Beyond Barriers, is that literally you're behind this barrier. You've put the barrier there yourself. You've put it there. It's in your mind. It's all up here. You've put it there, and you can't see the humanity of the so-called other, of people that are beyond those barriers. You don't see them. You've put that blockade in your mind, and you can't see it. So Dia was able to break through that barrier, and Daryl Davis did as well, earlier, about a year before that. And there's a lot of other people that I can't, talk about. These are public figures. These are people that are known, so they don't mind. But there's a lot of other people that played a part in that as well. And then eventually, leading to the way out, I should have left the organization back then, but I felt like I was stuck. I felt like
before you go on, Jeff, stop right there for a second, here, mate, if you don't mind. Yeah. Now, before you come out, I just want to ask this, because we shared that experience with you. We got an opportunity to watch the documentary White Right Meeting the Enemy, and it was a very powerful footage. There's no doubt about that, right? And I think it's very daring of an individual like Dina Khan to walk into that space, all right? And because there's not a lot of human being like that person, like she is. It's like, listen, we're screaming and shouting, we're slinging crap at each other, but 1 minute, there must be more to this. There must be a reason why these people say what they say and where they're coming from. That's a very powerful sentiment, and to walk in with that, right? And I think by seeing that, and then what you just touched on is, because you started to talk, and there was a lot of questions, and her own personal experiences being the victim of hate and slander of a particular type because of her skin color, because of her religion, because of who she is, even a woman, a lady. All right, and I think there's a particular area where you said, why do you keep saying that? Right? Why do you keep mentioning that? It was for me, as a viewer, was like, oh my God, this guy is literally taking these words and hitting his psyche at the moment in time. That's how it came across to me. But one thing I want to ask you here, and we'll bring back to Ivan, is that where I can understand, because Dina is the one who's contacting you, right? And you gave that permission. You choose to converse with her. But when it came to Daryl Davis, how did that happen? Do you know what I mean? Because knowing how the organization, these particular extremist organizations, may that be from the far right, far left, Islamists, whatever they are, they tend to be very, very careful and measured in what they want to share with the world and what they want to hear of the world. So I get Dina picking up the phone, having a conversation. Okay, maybe there was a bit of discussion, whatever. You gave that opportunity. You said, come on, we'll have a chat. But how did the Daryl Davis one happen, mate? You know what I mean? That's like, what?
It was similar. It was actually very similar, because in my role as the commander of the National Socialist Movement, one of the things the National Socialist Movement was kind of known for was we were the organization was very public. It would meet with different media. It would meet with different things like that. So it wasn't like Daryl and I just bumped into each other. I was meeting with him for his film, which was called Accidental Courtesy. And there's just a little short clip in that. But that's where Daryl and I met. And typically before a film like that, I would do a little background. I would try to figure out what I was filming for and look into the film company and all that. In this case, for whatever reason, I didn't do that. So I didn't even know really who I was meeting with. I just knew I was meeting with a documentary film crew. And Daryl steps out of a vehicle and he's like, hey, I recognize you. You're Jeff Schoep, and I was like, oh, you must be Daryl. I didn't look him up, which was really rare or something like that. So I wasn't prepared or anything, but it didn't really matter to me if he was black or whatever, other than I was in this mode of I'm representing the National Socialist Movement. This is what I'm going to do. And, I had no idea that seeds would be planted or that friendships would come out of this or anything like that. It was these rare opportunities. Like in regular life, you meet people from other races all the time, but I just never gave people the opportunities, or gave myself the opportunity to, you look back on all these years and it's like, there's probably hundreds of incredible people that I shut out of my life, and countless other people do that in extremist movements. Ivan's stories is very similar as well. We talked about it. We talked about it off camera and before as well. I mean, when you're in these extremist movements and you're in that type of thinking, you really shut yourself off to, you put the blinders on, and it's really unfortunate. So once again, it's sticking yourself behind this barrier that you've put there, and you did it to yourself, so it's like you have no one else to blame for it but yourself. But
so when did you officially, so this is where you said, you know what, I'm slamming the door on this and I'm walking out?
Well, and it was a process because I was struggling with it in my mind. And what I did first, and it's kind of a long story, so feel free to interject at any time because sometimes I might go on too much. So, but I'm starting to have these doubts, like, I'm not about hate anymore. I still was quite anti-Semitic. That was something that I had to unwork later. But I didn't feel like I was a racist anymore after about 2016, maybe around that period of time. And in the organization, I'm starting to try to reflect my change within the organization. We're changing things politically. Well, we're telling people, well, before this, we were telling people not to say racial epithets, not to cuss on the microphone. And a lot of that was for PR reasons, but we were changing other things in the organization to try to make it, in my mind, and this might sound funny, but in my mind at that time, I felt like I was going to turn the NSM into a white civil rights organization. I know that sounds funny, but when you're involved, when you're that steeped in it, that made sense at the time. Looking back at it now, after I got out, I was like, man, what the heck? You can't make the Nazi Party into a white civil rights organization. That's the stupidest, most ridiculous thing, but at the time it made sense. Like that, I was trying to make sense of my own changes, processing this stuff on my own. And that was it. So I was like, well, there's a saying here, maybe they have it there as well in England, but like, this is your bed, now you have to lie in it. That's kind of where I was like, well, this is what I did. This is who I am. And, now I have to deal with it. Regular society, the world will never accept me back because I've done, this racist, hateful stuff. So now this is your bed and you lie in it. So I struggled with that for a while, and I was trying to make the organization more palatable for the public. In my mind, I thought that was
Jeff, mate, like you said, it is that was your reality.
Yeah,
you understand, you were that individual, and not were, because we've looked into a little bit more around your the statements, etc., that you made and how you said it and whatever you said. And then of course, of these particular experiences or with individuals and this human connection that you had with certain people, all right, did start making you think. But naturally, there were much more hardened characters around you to say, Jeff, what are you doing? We're about something completely different. Where are you taking us? Are you mad?
Yeah, there was some blowback, and as far as that went, like when I changed in the National Socialist Movement, the swastika was the main symbol that we use, and I switched that in 2016 to a odal rune. And the organization over the years, that many years, there was different scandals and different issues that happened, and where sometimes even groups that would monitor us would say, oh, the National Socialist Movement's hemorrhaging members, all kinds of people are leaving because of this scandal or that scandal. And a lot of people don't know this, but the most people that ever left that organization was when I changed that symbol to an odal rune, from the swastika to the odal rune. We lost more people than any scandal ever before for that reason, because there was a lot of hardcore old school National Socialists that did not like that. There was other people that agreed with it or whatever, but the organization was not a democracy. It was set up more like a dictatorship. So if they didn't like it, there wasn't a whole lot they could leave. That was sort of how it was set up. So that was that. I think that explains a little bit of the process, but there was a lot of things that I struggled with, to leave and to get out of that. And finally, I guess to fast forward a little bit on that was, as I'm struggling with it in the last bit of time that I was there, now we're making social media policies, which a lot of policies we had were kind of unwritten rules, and there was different things, but it's like we were having an issue with different people posting violent memes online and things like that. It's like, these are things that you shouldn't, in a normal group of friends or associates or anything, you shouldn't have to tell people like, hey, you shouldn't post memes of like a man pulling a wagon with dead bodies in it, or something about burning mosques or synagogues. Like, that's not okay. Like, and it seemed like one after another. And then we're seeing, not specifically the National Socialist Movement, but people that were adherents to the ideology going and doing things like mass shootings at mosques and synagogues and things like that. And to me, it was just, that was enough. It was like, you know what? I can't make excuses, because in the group, when stuff like that would happen, the initial reaction would always be like, oh, well, at least it wasn't an NSM member. And that's not a norm. You shouldn't think like that. Like, it's like, okay, so someone from the ideology, maybe not the group, but someone that's adhering to this ideology, felt like it was okay to go and walk into a mosque, a synagogue, a church, and just start blowing people away.
Yeah.
That's not okay. That's not acceptable. So I couldn't stand by any longer and be part of something like that. And I know how the extremist mindset works. There's people that are in, and this isn't to say that everybody that's involved thinks like that, because they don't. That's not accurate. But some do, and some will excuse it. Some think it's great. Some admire it. Some consider these people martyrs. But the ideology, if it drives people to do something like that, for me, I couldn't be. I felt like I could do more countering stuff like that and saving lives, and so that's why I do what I do now. I just couldn't. I couldn't be part of something like that any longer.
Go for Ivan.
It's like you said earlier, our stories are pretty similar. I met my perceived enemy, Myanmar. It was a process for me as well, 2 years. And like you, I stayed in the movement for a bit. It was the sense of belonging that kept me there for a bit longer. But I remember going to a demonstration and something happened. And I thought, this isn't for me no more. I walked off and walked away. Do you know what I mean? And both Dia and Down have had an influence on me as well. We met through Dia Khan. We were both filmed for the documentary. But because your lot kicked off in Charlottesville, we got cut, didn't we? So good for that. But so like Daryl Davis, for me, when I see someone along with Daryl Davis, and what made me look more into him was that ability to, like Dia does, just go up to people and say, hate me. So Daryl had an influence on me as well, because when I first started doing my talks, I went to the Muslim community why I hated them. You know what I mean? So we're probably on the same page that dialogue is the way forward, but it's often overlooked. Do you think that as well? We're always looking for something other than the simple things.
No, you're 100% right. I mean, the thing is no one's left the movement by getting punched in the face, or meeting violence with violence. A lot of people that are in it thrive off of that. And just as like what you said, dialogue is so incredibly important. And these movements are driven by, in a lot of cases, by fear. And I know we didn't recognize that when we were part of it. we wouldn't have admitted that, even I think if we did recognize it, you know, because fear was like a bad word, you know, like you weren't afraid of nothing. I still don't like the word fear. I still am not afraid of nothing, but you're right. Like the dialogue, having these conversations and meeting people, and Daryl and Dia are incredible examples because they're able to see past that. And one of the things that they're able to do is, and this is what we do as well, I know you do as well, is being able to have those conversations. And even if the person's saying disgusting, horrible things, a lot of these people that are involved in these causes, they just want to be heard, you know, so they feel like they're unheard, and now they're being heard. So even if you're listening to the filth that's coming out of their mouth, the garbage that they're saying, and it's not something you agree with, if you hear them, and then they in turn, because respect is a big thing in these movements, you know, it's really important. So if they've, you know, given you the respect to listen to you, now you have to listen to them also. So now that's where if you really have dialogue down, and you really have these this ability like what Dia and Daryl did, then you can start planting those seeds. And I think one of the things that was really interesting, like about Dia's story, was she showed a little bit of vulnerability. She showed her human side. And in some cases, you know, when you analyze stuff like that and you look back at it, you go like, man, for one, that takes a lot of courage, especially in front of your perceived or your real enemy, to show any sort of vulnerability or anything like that, to show that. But in the case, like in my own personal journey, them showing that vulnerability and showing like, this is a human being sitting in front of me. This is not a black person or a Muslim or a Jew or Asian or whatever. It's a human being. It's a person that's no different than you, that has the same desires, the same wants, the same needs. And when you start seeing the world that way, all the barriers just start crumbling. And
let me, and you hit the nail on the head, Jeff. And I think both of you are prime examples of this, gentleman. You know, there's one thing within the Me and You education, organization. This is something that we keep emphasizing. And we talk about dehumanization, which is one of the processes, where we use a process that we use to hate, to undermine, to belittle other individuals. So because they have a different color, because they have a different ethnicity, religion, whatever it is, we use a process of dehumanization. And one of the key things that we do within our workshop is I've had an opportunity to work with individuals who've been convicted for terrorist activity, you understand, for terrorism and etc. And you know, when you work with individuals who have done something like that, and you get an opportunity to have a conversation with them, you start, and let me be clear, as people who work with these people, and when they get convicted, we all, sadly, this is something I say in the presentation, is that we do the same thing that they do to us. They use the process of dehumanization and they justify the killing of us, or harming us, hating us. But we do the same. We dehumanize them, make them into beasts. We make them into monsters. We say they're not even human. What are we doing? We are distancing our responsibility as human beings towards them. And then I give the example of which I was going to touch on in a second, that there is a particular individual that I got on. There's a number of individuals, but this particular individual example I gave, and I got an opportunity to meet this guy. Now, this guy was going to chop off the hand of an individual in retribution of Lee Rigby. You know, I don't know if you know or are aware of this particular incident that happened in London. All right, now in retribution to that, he wanted to do this. Now, when we started to work with him, putting aside the idea that he's a beast or a monster or whatever, and started to work with him, I'm going to be blunt, and I say this in a very open forum. I go, this same young man said to me directly, I made a mistake. If I could rewind this back and get back to the point, I would never go down that route. For me, that was big. That was huge. And why that was possible? That was possible because I saw him as a human. Like when Dia or Darrell Davis walked into that room, do you remember they saw you as a human? being, or even same situation is that we saw you as a human first. And I think that's sometimes that's what's forgotten.
And not labeled.
That it's that label, isn't it? And I think that's you both of you have touched on something very powerful, and that's the problem today. And Jeff, I just want to bring this in because you spoke about, you know, this idea of fear. Isn't it true, Jeff, that where you are in America today, the politics of fear is what's used, all right, to create certain type of reactions? And we know the election's coming up soon, and this is something that we are pandering towards a particular group of people. And once again, we are playing into the fear. Isn't that true?
Oh yes, yes, and that's what that's what's interesting. You know, like we can talk about our stories and how they are applied, but the same scenario, we're seeing more polarization right now in the United States than I've seen at any time in my lifetime. I mean, what they're doing, and exactly like you said, the politics of fear, that's everything right now, and we're seeing like this schism between like the Democrats and the Republicans it's so polarized and so angry right now, where you know, people, it's almost like the extremist thought has gone mainstream, because you're seeing, you don't have this strong center before. Like before, people would say, oh well, the Nazis and these people, they're on the extreme far right, and on the extreme far left you have the communists, the anarchists, the Antifa, and most everybody else is here in the middle.
He's in the center.
Right. And I still believe, I mean, I think most of us are in the middle, but you'd be they want you to believe that you have to be one or the other. So now you have people that are saying like, well, if you're a Republican, you're a Nazi. If you voted for Trump, you're a Nazi. Well, oh, if you voted for Biden, then you're a commie, you know, and you're or Antifa. Neither one of these things are accurate statements, but these are things that are being said. And you're having things like, I know in the white nationalist movement, we talked for, you know, 27 years, we talked about things like civil war, race war, things like that, and it was always a fringe thing. Like the mainstream would always say, nah, you know, do you really think that's going to happen? You guys are, you know, nuts, and it doesn't make any sense. Now you have mainstream media, you have mainstream people talking about civil war in this country like it's normal. You know, that's the new normal, and that's incredibly disturbing, especially as somebody that's come out of an extremist movement, seeing those talking points. I've had people, because you know, we do outreach and we do have people from various forms of extremist movements reach out to Beyond Barriers and things like that, and I've had people say, well, did you feel like you made a mistake leaving, because all the things we were saying about civil war and all that is being talked about? You know, didn't you leave at the wrong time? You know, didn't you regret leaving? And that's where, you know, at least we have dialogue, but that's only a small percentage that's maybe reaching out and having that dialogue. There's other people that are just sitting back and waiting, or plotting or planning for that civil war or that race war. But if we have that dialogue, you know, I feel like I can reel them back and go, look, that's not, the rest of us are here in the middle. You need to get here in the middle too. You know, like it's not that is disturbing though. It is.
That is disturbing. That is hugely disturbing, Jeff. And I think the them and us rhetoric has killed us. Right? There's nothing wrong with being different. There's never been anything wrong with difference. Right? You can have your opinion. You can have your viewpoint. We live in a democratic structure, mate. Right? Everybody has the right to their view, their idea, their way of thinking, reflection, sexuality, gender, whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? You're entitled to that. Religion, faith, whatever. The problem is when, like you said, we talked about the reason I'm touching on this fear thing is that the people who are doing this, playing the game of politics of fear, they're not doing it with ignorance. They're doing it with awareness. Oh, yeah. They know if we want to get certain people on board, certain people to vote for us, to work with us, right, walk behind us, all we have to do is create an environment of fear of the other, right? And this is a problem. This becomes a massive concern nationally for America, internationally for the rest of us, because when a big don, I'm going to say, I've used the word, the big don, like America, reacts in a particular way, it stops becoming a friend, but it starts becoming a bully. And that becomes very complicated because we don't want that. We don't want that because we know that how powerful America is financially, economically, right? It holds that particular role and position. But sadly, when you look at the circumstance situation, what's going on in America, it makes you think, oh my God, what the hell do we do with this guy? Do you know what I'm saying, mate?
Mm-hmm.
Jeff, I'm gonna give it back to Ivan. I know because there's a few more things that he wants to ask you to bring your story to a particular point. Go for it, Ivan.
Yeah, just quickly on the Civil War conversation, quickly. I see Walmart were removing their guns from the stores. The Oath Keepers are saying about patrolling the streets on election day. It's mad that you've got guns, Jeff. Do you know what I mean? What Trump win or lose is potentially a war zone, maybe, or maybe a strong word, but the division will be deeper, whoever win, I think, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think, and that's a question that a lot of people are asking. Like, well, depending on who wins, do you think there's going to be civil unrest and things like that? I think on both sides, and the politics of fear, like you guys were saying as well. Both parties, even in the political ads and things like that we're seeing here, that we're being bombarded with, both sides are using these politics of fear, and it's the same tactics we used in the NSM that our propaganda department used. I'm not saying it's all identical, but it's the same tactics. It's the same things that we use to stoke, to radicalize. We didn't call it radicalizing, but that's what it is. But to radicalize our membership, we would use fear tactics. We would use like, hey, look what's going on to white people in South Africa. Look at what happened to this white family here in Detroit, in Chicago, so on and so forth. Both parties are doing that in the mainstream here in America now. And you're right. That was a new story that Walmart was pulling the guns off the shelves and things like that here because they're preparing, or because of the concern of civil unrest. Even language like that, even like talk like that. The first thing I was saying to a friend here just the other night when we saw that story about Walmart, I was like, man, I wish they wouldn't say that on the news, is the first thing that came out of my mouth, because I feel like in some ways, maybe psychologically, that puts ideas in people's heads, like, well, maybe, we should go crazy on election night or things like that. And you do have, these are definitely concerns.
Yeah, I think the same thing. Just when I read that story from Walmart, it made me think as if America is going to have a war. Do you know what I mean? It's if people are fearing that much, what's the fear going to the ordinary person? Do you know what I mean? I think the election is next week, I believe, isn't it? Next week.
Yeah,
so I guess we'll find out.
Let's hope
find out what happens then. I guess
there's a lot of guns in this country, so let's hope not. Let's really hope not, because it would be bad.
And the gun sales have gone as well since this as well, isn't it?
Gun sales went way with the riots and things, that when they started the riots in May, gun sales were going through the roof. And they've been, I don't have the figures or anything in front of me, but there's been a lot of stories and studies on that. But the gun sales have definitely gone up in the country. Absolutely. Again, back to the fear.
Yeah, it's just, it's all about fear, isn't it? And like you say, the media does play into a lot of that. And I think what COVID has done is made the extremist jobs easier. That everyone's confused at the minute. So that's perfect recruiting ground for. If I was back in the movement back then, I'd be having a field time. It'd be so easy to get people into your way of thinking, into the us and them narrative, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's just it. Is like, you use these in the movement. We would pick up on issues, hot button issues like illegal immigration was one that the NSM pounded on all the time. If there was racial crimes or things like that, we would focus on things like that. But illegal immigration was a huge hot button issue. Right now, it's the COVID and things like that. And people that are in the movement now, you know, I mean, I listen to the chatter, and I have conversations with people that are in and out and leaving and all of that. And they feel like, excuse me, they feel like they don't have to even try to recruit right now because it's so easy that people are coming to them pretty quick because of the polarization, because of the fear, because of the current environment here. So let's hope that the doctors and scientists figure out a vaccine for the COVID, because I do think that locking people down and some of these things may, I mean, we don't really know, but I think they may add to some of that, because you have people locked up and not getting out and socializing like they should be. So it can cause some mental health issues for some people. And it's just not, it's not what people are used to. So it's more suicides and different things like that. It really affects some people pretty heavily from what we've been hearing.
No, it is. It's affecting them hugely, and I know Ivan himself is our mental health, awareness champion here within his own region as well. Now, that's something that we do work on. We tend to work even before this COVID pandemic came to existence. This is reality of any type of isolation. Now, one of the areas which hopefully, we get an opportunity with yourself, Jeff, in the future as well, to talk about online radicalization, grooming, and these type of activities that take place. And we know a lot of material that comes from America, it's all online, and a lot of material that does come our way, it is through that particular process. And hopefully we get an opportunity to talk to you about that in the future. We are, in a short while our program will end, and that's why I would like to take the conversation towards something which is slightly more positive, hopefully, because I think you as an individual, you've been through a particular journey, and I think your journey, your story is very powerful. All right, of course, naturally, there's a lot of what your life is and what has happened, especially those 27 odd years, and even before that. And I know there's a lot of conversation that I've taken. Where were you before? What happened to you before that? And etc. There's a journey that's taken place, and a lot of the people today can learn from that particular, type of experience that you've had. But now you're an individual who lives in a country where, like you said, people are, using fear, hate, division, all right, to play politics, right? Now, even though you yourself have chosen to change, to get out of that situation, get out of them particular conversations and discussion of polarization, all right, which alienates people. You're ready to drag them into the center and say, listen, we need to have a conversation. But how do we do that, mate? Because look, you've gone from a particular position, you can give your experience, but in a way, what the mainstream media is doing, or mainstream particular platforms are doing, sadly, is very similar to what the extreme wings of society are doing or have done for decades. So give me some hope, mate.
You're right, and it is disturbing, but most people, I think it comes back, and I don't want to keep pounding on dialogue, but it really comes back to dialogue. It really truly does. Some people, you're not going to reach everybody. You got to be realistic. I think the goal should be to try to reach everybody, but there's some people, they're just not ready. They're just not ready to hear things. They're not ready to listen. But I think when you're willing to listen to them, then that gives an opportunity to plant seeds. So maybe you don't convince them right then and there, but I know just from my own experience and what worked in my personal story was some seeds being planted. And even though like Dia would catch, I'd be on camera and I'd say whatever, for the NSM at the time, there was a question she asked me that I couldn't really answer. And it's stuck in the back of my head because I don't like not having the answers to things. So I'm sitting there going, man, you didn't have a real answer for that woman, for that question. And I'm just going, the wheels are turning and turning and turning. So we plant seeds today. They might not grow instantly, but they'll eventually grow if we keep that door open for dialogue. And I've had people, when I first got out of the movement, I had a reporter, and I won't say who or where or anything like that, but I had a reporter that was like, do you still talk to people in the movement? And I was like, well, some, I mean, I'm trying to get these people out, like, he's like, and his eyes got big, and he was like, oh, because they think if you're talking to him, you must still be a Nazi, so I was trying to figure out my way and all, this is before we started the Beyond Barriers and all that. And I'm thinking, man, what are you not supposed to talk to people? Like, what are you supposed to do? Like, I was learning civilian life, like how it's like to be outside of the movement. And here's somebody that's from the complete outside looking in, looking at me like I just, stepped on a cat's head or something, like, because I said I was still speaking to people, and it's like, how can I do this work? How can I help people if I'm not willing to talk to them? So it goes back to the dehumanization is, we could probably do a whole entire show on that. I mean, that's incredible. But that's where a lot of it goes. So there is hope. And we can reach people. It's just we just got to keep trying.
See, I know, naturally we keep a very close eye on how, American history has worked in the last, number of centuries, what they've been up to and what they've been getting up to in engagement and disengagement and whatever it is. We have to, because in the worlds that we live in, if you are unaware of this, then there are certain dialogues, conversations that can't take place. Now, one of the things within the American context has always been problematic is that we have this thing, I have the right to say this, First Amendment, freedom of speech. I can be whoever, whatever. I'm just paraphrasing here. I'm just guessing exactly what it is as an amendment. Now, what that has done in the context of America is everybody wants to speak. Nobody wants to listen, because an amendment is about expression. It doesn't say, listen. That is a problem. Whereas when you talk about normal dialogue, right, in conversation, it's two-sided. Like, I'll say a bit, then you'll say something. Then even though I don't agree with you 100%, I will try to crawl, what's the word now? Slowly drag myself slightly towards your side and try to understand why you're saying what you're saying, because we are giving each other space to speak and each other to listen. The problem I have with the American context, and maybe you can enlighten me, maybe there's something I am unaware of, which you are aware of being in America as an American, within the fabric of America is to speak, not to listen.
I've never heard it put that way. That's really interesting. The freedom of speech here in this country is a huge thing. And I think I believe it's incredibly important, as long as that speech is not encouraging violence or something illegal, that I think is really important. Even ugly speech, I think, should be protected speech, just because it's part of our Constitution. It's part of our rights as American citizens. But I do see exactly what you're saying, is that even in that speech, people want to be heard, but they're not listening. And that's where the problem comes in, is we're not hearing each other. We're speaking at each other, not to each other. Boy,
you said it. You just said it, Jeff. We are speaking at each other, and maybe that's the problem here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we can see, not to each other. Because if we were speaking to each other, then hopefully we will start to listen to each other. So the sacredness of freedom of speech is reinstated, but at the same time, people still get to say what they have to say. But we are listening to each other, definitely talking to each other. And I think that's the difficult bit. A lot of us don't know what dialogue is. We don't understand what real conversation is. And in a way, hopefully, platforms like this, and weirdly, social media, that's what's supposed to teach us, that this is how you converse and this is what you talk. And sadly, we have used the same platform to blurt out some of the most horrific things that you can imagine. You know what I'm saying, Jeff? There's a question that's been raised by one of our, listeners who listens all the time. God bless him. Luke, his name is. Luke's put a question to you, Jeff, and I'm going to say it to you. What advice does Jeff have for anyone who wants to re-engage with society, mainstream society, and rebuild their life after leaving the extreme right?
It can be done. If someone that was as high profile as I was in that, and a number of other people, if we can do it, then anyone can do it. And that's part of the reason why I do this. One is to repair the damage done from the past, and two, it's to help show other people that it can be done. Because looking back, I mean, if my first goal is obviously to save lives. You know, we don't want people to go and do anything violent and terrible or things like that. But also, when you look at the individuals that are involved, whether it's in the far right, far left, Islamic extremism, religious extremism, whatever your extremism is, or even a gang, you know, if you're in this stuff, you're completely inside this bubble. You're in this echo chamber, and all your social contacts, a lot of times, all your friends, everybody's involved in this stuff. So it's really hard to get a view on it from the outside looking in. So if you disengage from that and get outside of that, even if you're basically alone, you know, I mean, first of all, you're not alone. I mean, you can reach out to us, you can reach out to you guys, anybody, not anybody, but there's a lot of people that you can reach out to that'll listen, that'll hear you. And you're not alone, and it can be done. It can be done. If a person can change their life after being involved over 2 decades in this stuff and start over, if I can do it, you can do it too. That's that's
no, Jeff, and I think you're right, Jeff. Big up to you, because I think living a particular lifestyle for 20 odd years, all right, and it must have been scary, mate, you know, to come out of a very, whatever that was, it was still your family. Whatever it was, it was your friends. Whatever it was, it's your social structure that you had created around yourself. And because it started to go against the fabric of your reality, you know, you start to feel, 1 minute, this is not working for me. This is just not right. And to leave that, you know, security, normality, and then to take and make a decision, you know what? I'm going to be one of those people who's going to turn and say, listen, this is not right. It's very gutsy of you, mate. Do you know what I mean? I really believe that. Maybe I look at it in a slightly different perspective because I deal with people like this all the time. And I think if I didn't do that, I won't able to do what I do in my world. So I have to give it to you, mate. And I think that advice is really cool. It's really good advice, that there are other people. And sometimes by talking to them will really help. You understand? Ivan, anything from you, mate?
No, I think it's been awesome having you on, Jeff. We'll arrange something again in the future, hopefully. And I hope everything goes all right next week for you. If not, it must be hard work for you at the minute. We're living in testing times over here. But for you, your work, it must be immense at the minute. So
it's been crazy busy.
Yeah, I just hope everything goes okay for you and everything. That's it.
Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate it. And you guys, it's really an honor to be on the program and be honored to come on again or answer any questions and, do what I can. If there's anything I can do from here, feel free to contact me at any time.
Jeff, God bless you for that. Jeff, thank you very, very much for sharing your thoughts, your story as well, because I think your story is powerful. It does resonate with a lot of individuals. And this idea of going from hate towards love, it's not everybody's ball game. Not everybody does that. And I think in your life, you've had individuals who've really shaken the fabric of the self, made you realize, 1 minute, maybe I need to do the same. And I think the work that you're doing is phenomenal, is brilliant. And I pray to the Lord Almighty. I'm a Muslim. Being a Muslim, being a practicing Muslim, I pray to my Lord, God Almighty, Allah, that He gives strength to humanity to understand this. Start looking at each other and seeing each other as human beings and helping each other as best as we can. Big up, guys, both of you. It was a wicked conversation. Guys, those of you who've been listening, I know we've have regular listeners. God bless you. I know later on you're going to say your statements as well. Please leave the questions. If there are any questions, any statements, please put it down. Hopefully we will come back to you. Big up to everybody. We're signing out. See you guys. God bless.